It's 1943 here in Noir City. I hope you all are going to enjoy hanging with this concept this year, that we're going to do all of this in chronological order, right? So last night we started with the Maltese Falcon in 1941, Quiet Please Murder, our very unusual B film from 1942, and this afternoon we're starting out in 1943, the height of World War II. But for our first movie today, we are not going to delve into that imbroglio. We're going to stick closer to home. And I'm going to get to that in just a second, but first, we're going to bring Carly up here on stage with the box for all you folks who are participating in the Noir City Trivia Quiz. If you don't know about this, this is your first time here, you weren't here last night. When you come to the shows, you're going to be handed a ballot with questions about the movies. Generally, it's the movies that they're seeing that night, right? Answer the questions, put it in the box on either side of the theater, and then the following show, we will draw a winner from that box, which is what I'm going to do right now. Okay, so I hope we do this in San Francisco sometimes with a raffle, and like the people are never there. And it's like so embarrassing, or call out a name and nothing happens. So let's see if we can do better than that today. Okay. I'm not going to tell you whether you got them all right or not, although I'm tempted to do that. Okay. The winner is Diane Bissett. Is Diane here? Diane, say you're here, Diane, because you can come down and claim this prize. It's just that everybody knows Diane. I guess Diane is relatively famous here in Seattle. Okay, she's right over there hiding.
No, she would sit back over there, but she's not there.
Oh, she even has her own seat. Well, maybe we'll go leave the Maltese Falcon tote bag on her seat because she arrives, and then we'll be waiting for her with her correct answers right here. Okay. Okay, so that kind of worked. She wasn't actually here, but everybody knows her, so that's, I guess, good. Okay, fantastic. And be forewarned that before all of the B films in the program, I will be doing my own trivia quiz. It's either going to be Name That Noir or Name That Performer, depending on the card that my guinea pig, who I will pick somewhat at random. So if you lurk around, I mean, you can also come up to me and like tug on my sleeve and say, pick me, pick me. That helps. That works. But I will find likely candidates to come up here and do Name That Noir with me. So before Address Unknown this afternoon, we're going to do that. Okay, now, as for Shadow of a Doubt, first question. How many people in the audience have not seen this movie before? Okay, that's good. That's fantastic. Okay, great. You are going to see Alfred Hitchcock's personal favorite of all of the movies that he made. This was his personal favorite, and that is saying something. And it's also saying something because it's very unusual for an Alfred Hitchcock movie, and that this is an example of character suspense rather than plot suspense, and where Hitchcock films are so famous for being loaded with spectacular set pieces. This movie is not, really. The set pieces in this film are all character-driven. His reason for wanting to make this movie, I find this movie to be very, very subversive, given the time that it was made. As I said, this is the height of World War II. At the point this movie was made, the outcome of the war was still in doubt. There was the Allies were not assured of victory in the war in 1943. And for a filmmaker to make a movie that, to me, in many ways, this film, although it is not about the war, it is about evil and about the roots of evil. So in many ways, it does speak to what was happening in the world at that time. I also think this film remains extremely timely to this day because it is what they call in the business a two-hander. This is really about two characters interacting with each other. One of them, a young woman who trusts an older man that she idolizes, who turns out to maybe not be worthy of that adoration. Somewhat of a timely story, perhaps, for our days today. Alfred Hitchcock wanted to make this movie. He wanted to do it with Thornton Wilder, the writer Thornton Wilder, because he had just had this huge success with Our Town, which is about the heart and soul of small-town America. And Hitchcock, in sort of the David Lynch twist for his time, said, well, I'll do small-town America my way. And revealed something kind of dark and insidious in there. And Thornton Wilder was a very avid collaborator on this. He loved this idea and was all in. He didn't really finish writing the screenplay because he went off to do his duty, to serve in the military. And the rest of the film was finished by some of Hitchcock's closest collaborators, all women, mind you. His wife, of course, Alma Revel, his protege, Joan Harrison, whose name does not appear on the film, but Hitchcock barely let a script go out that Joan Harrison and Alma Revel did not do the polish on. Eventually, Joan Harrison would become her own producer, and eventually she would come back into Hitchcock's life to produce his television show in the 1950s. They also hired the woman Sally Benson, screenwriter, who had written Meet Me in St. Louis, which is Meet Me in St. Louis and Shadow of a Doubt. I'm going to do that double bill someday. The Sally Benson double bill. And even the actress Patricia Coleridge, who plays Joseph Cotton's sister, she even gets credit for writing one of the crucial scenes in this movie. I don't want to spoil it, tell you what it is. But this kind of belies the reputation that Hitchcock has for not being a real collaborator, because he worked very, very closely with all these people and was open enough. When Patricia Coleridge said, I have an idea for a scene, he said, well, let me hear it, you know. And she played it out for him, and he said, we're using it. We're going to put that in the film. Originally, this may come as a surprise to some of you, Hitchcock wanted to cast William Powell in the role of Uncle Charlie in this movie. Now, William Powell was one of the most popular actors in Hollywood in the 1930s, and to see him play this character would have really been subversive. But Joseph Cotton, by far, in my estimation, this is Joseph Cotton's finest hour, 90 minutes on screen. And he is matched every step of the way by Teresa Wright, who gives an absolutely amazing performance in this movie. She had just been nominated for an Oscar, and I don't think she won the Best Supporting Actress Oscar for Mrs. Miniver, but she was very, very popular at this time. And this movie just is a masterpiece. In many ways, this is Hitchcock's first bona fide masterpiece of his career, yet it's unlike any other movie that he would make later on in his career. So for those of you who have seen it before, you know what I'm talking about. I'm not telling you anything new. For those of you who are seeing this for the first time, you are really in for a treat. Thank you for coming today, and please stick around for the second show this afternoon, which is a real discovery that I am thrilled that Noir City has unearthed this movie, and it will speak to this period even more dramatically than Shadow of a Doubt does. Enjoy Alfred Hitchcock's Shadow of a Doubt.